Next, we have the elements of internal control. It is known as crime, for it is easier to identify. So the crime is, the C it means is control environment, the R is risk assessment, the I is the information and communication, the M is the monitoring control processes, and E is the existing control activities. So the control environment is which the overall attitude, awareness, and actions of directors and management regarding to the internal control system and its importance in the entity. So the factors reflective, we have the function of the board of directors and its committees, then structures and methods of assigning authority and responsibility, and management control system. So factors comprises, we have the communication and enforcement of integrity and ethical values, as this to remove or reduce the incentives of temptation to engage in dishonest, illegal, or unethical acts. Then commitment to the competence. So competence is the knowledge and skills are necessary to define an employee's jobs to perform the task. Number 3 is the participation by those charged with governance, management attitude, and approach towards taking and monitoring the business risk, and etc. Then the R is the risk assessment process. So it means is identification, analysis, and management of risk pertaining to the preparation of financial statements. So risk can be arises due to changes in operating environment, new personnel, new or revamped information system, rapid growth, technology, and many more. The I is the information and communication. So it is relevant to financing reporting. So we have the journal entries, so different related business processes, so information systems that are very important to know on how the transaction goes and where it is originated, and the data that are being recorded. So we have the monitoring of controls, so processes that an entity uses to assess the quality of the internal control over time, assessing the design and operation on a timely basis, and taking corrective action as necessary. Existing control activity, so it helps to ensure that the management directives are carried out. So categories procedures are, we have the performance review, the physical controls, and the information processing controls. So in the performance review, so it is to assess the performance and it takes corrective actions. Then physical controls, so safeguards to the assets and the records, authorization to access computers, and etc. So information processing controls, so it requires authorization for the transaction for it to ensure the accuracy, the completeness of the transaction processing. It concerned as to transactions are executed in accordance with the management general or specific authorizations. All transactions and other events are promptly recorded in the correct amount, in the appropriate accounts, and in the proper accounting period, so as to permit the preparation of financial statements in accordance with an identified financial reporting framework. To assess an assets and record is permitted only in accordance with management authorizations. Recorded assets are compared with the existing assets at reasonable intervals, and appropriate action is taken regarding any differences. It groups to as follows. One is the proper authorization of transaction on activities. So it suggested that flows from the stockholders to management and its subordinates. Then segregations of duties. So it is important to assign duties to allow the person to avoid to commit an error or to conceal error or fraud. Then 3, adequate documents and records. So the use of adequate documents and records allow the company to obtain reasonable assurance that all valid transactions have been recorded. And last is to the access to assets. So for examples, if inventories may be kept in storeroom or negotiable instruments may be placed in the safe deposits box. So the resources can be protected by establishment of physical barriers and appropriate policies. So that the documents, authorization, and movement of assets into organization are out of the organizations are inadequately